Dr. Frankenstein, Dr. Jekyll, Doc Brown. What do they all have in common? Scientists are often portrayed as being crazy or eccentric in sci-fi movies. But what about in real life? How far are scientists willing to go in order to make a breakthrough? From scientists turning themselves into cyborgs to washing their hands in leaded fuel, let's take a look at some of the craziest scientific experiments ever conducted in history. Number 4. Stanley Milgram's obedience studies. Stanley Milgram's experiments into obedience are some of the most famous and controversial in all of psychology. They took place in the 1960s and were designed to try and understand why some of the horrible crimes of World War II took place. In these studies, 2 participants would be involved, one who had the role of the teacher and one who was the learner. The teacher would read out word pairings and the learner was required to repeat them back. Every time they got it wrong, the teacher had to administer increasing levels of electric shocks to the learner. However, the learner was actually an actor, and the experiment was looking at how high a shock the teachers would give before stopping. To everyone's surprise, 2/3 of all participants administered the highest charge of 450 volts, despite believing that this could potentially cause the learner to pass out or even die. Some protested, but after being told to continue by the researchers, they complied. The experiment shows just how susceptible humans can be to following orders given by figures of authority, even if they're immoral. Number 3. The invention of leaded petrol and CFCs. Thomas Midgley Jr. was a scientist employed by General Motors to help overcome the problem of engine rattling. After experimenting with a number of different substances, he found that by adding lead to fuel, the rattling would go away. Of course, lead is extremely toxic to humans, and although this was known at the time, Midgley and his bosses prioritized profit over safety, which led to the death of many of their own workers and people around the world. Midgley even once washed his hands in leaded fuel during a press conference and inhaled its fumes for 1 minute to prove that it was okay. Not satisfied with developing just one dangerous product, Midgley was also responsible for the use of compounds like Freon, found in refrigerators and aerosols. All are part of a group called chlorofluorocarbons, more commonly referred to as CFCs, which, once released into the atmosphere, are responsible for causing great damage to the Earth's ozone layer. By experimenting on the planet with his discoveries, Midgley caused irreparable harm without for a moment considering the consequences of his actions. Number 2. Human tolerance. Captain John Paul Stapp was a medical doctor who was interested in the limits of human tolerance, particularly related to the conditions a person could be subjected to in a military aircraft. He helped the Air Force construct a high-speed sled to test the effects of extreme deceleration. Named the Gee-Whiz, it was fitted with 4 high-power rocket bottles that could produce 500 pounds of thrust each. This would shoot it along a test track and subject a crash test dummy to huge G-forces. After a number of tests, Stapp decided that the only way to truly know if a human could withstand such extremes was to strap himself in. In December of 1947, he completed a first run, which saw him experience 10 Gs, but by August of the following year, he had increased the power and withstood up to 35 Gs, which would mean, for a time, his weight increased by 35 times. Amazingly, he survived to tell the tale, and in the process, rewrote our understanding of how much force a human could endure. And lastly, number 1, robotic implants. The possibility of having cybernetic implants is ever increasing, and at the forefront of this field is Professor Kevin Warwick from the University of Reading. In 1998, Project Cyborg 1.0 led Warwick to have a silicon chip transponder surgically implanted into his forearm. This allowed computers in the cybernetic department of the university to monitor his movements and control everything from doors and lights to heaters and computers without him lifting a finger. The success of this led to Project Cyborg 2.0 in 2002. This time, he had a 100 electroarray surgically implanted into the medium nerve fibers of his left arm. This required a 2-hour operation, but the results were remarkable. With it, he was able to control an electric wheelchair, an artificial hand, and even send artificial sensations to his brain. This technology could potentially give amputees full control over artificial limbs, and everyone the power to control systems with only their eyes. Sometimes to create big change, great risks must be taken, but these 4 experiments have brought safety and ethics right to the edge of what's acceptable. If you were a scientist, how far would you go? And are there any other crazy experiments you know of? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching! If you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and press that bell icon so that you don't miss our new episodes. See you next time!